Assalamu alaikum, students. How are you? Well, I'm fine. Thank you. And what it was last we were talking about in the world of broadcasting. I remember it was radio dramas. Yes, radio dramas. They lived a long time. There was a time when people were used to listening these radio dramas like anything. And at the end of the talk, we had come to a point where we were talking about post-production. Yes? Yeah. You can find it on your notes and the notes on this lecture on the web page. Post-production. Well, we will be talking for a minute before we go to the next topic, that is advertising. Advertising as a product, broadcasting product. We will be talking in a moment. But first, we should be talking about the post-production. Any piece of broadcasting which is recorded in any form, is a musical program, a documentary or talk show or a drama, it requires some treatment before it is presented to you, presented to the listeners. Because when you record a program, so many variables involved. The script, the direction, the voice, the distance from the microphone, and many others. It is very difficult to synchronize everything to the finest of its level. As the things are recorded, there is always something like someone has spoken a word more or someone has not spoken a word supposed to be saying. A musical note has been put faster than it was required by the director. There is so much. So all these small things are corrected at the stage we call post-production. When the recording is over, performers have gone home, and then you go to the studio. There is a special studio for this purpose, always. You sit around, director and all the technical staff, and they think how originally this program was visualized and whether it is somewhere very close to the original thinking. Well, then it is brought to all those mistakes of speech or music, they are removed, and an attempt is made that before the program is broadcast, it comes to a level where a broadcasting house or the channel, they feel very satisfied. Well, this is the quality of our broadcast. If that comes to that point, it is okay. Then it is finished. It is given the final touch, and then it is a ready product for broadcast. This is done, I would say, almost 100% cases where recorded material or recorded programs are to be broadcast. That is a very important area. It requires a lot of skill, because after this stage, there is nothing between the broadcasting house and the listeners. Any mistake which finds its way in this process will be taken as a permanent mistake once it is aired. If you use a wrong name for some person, if you sound it different from the actual sound of the word, phrase, and then it will go, and then the people would be talking about, and they will be expressing their doubts over the quality of the program from a particular broadcasting house. That should never happen, because one such mistake means that the image of your program or the channel is now in doubt. and you have lost so much. How much we will be talking now as we start this lecture on advertisements. Advertising people, they are very quality conscious. If the quality of your broadcasting house has gone down, you have actually compromised on the business you may be earning without a mistake. So we come down to advertising as a piece of broadcasting. Students, advertising. You will be hearing so much of advertising, and that is talked about so much, and so much ads as generally we call them ads, ads as a brief for advertisements. Ads are so much around in the print, in the electronic, both media, and now on the internet, digital area. It's full of ads. Why an ad for, let's suppose, a broadcasting house? Why? इंसान, और ख़ास तौर पे यहाँ पे मैं ये कहूँगा कि जो मेल है, मर्द हैं, जब उनके ज़िम्मे एक अज़ली काम है कि जब आप बड़े हों तो आप अपनी फैमिली को सपोर्ट करने के लिए, अपने आप को सपोर्ट करने के लिए आप कुछ, यू शुड बी अर्निंग. कोई ऐसा देखा नहीं होगा आपने मर्द जो पैसों के बगैर ज़िंदगी गुजार लेता. मैं एज ए इंडिविजुअल बात कर रहा हूँ. आपकी ख्वाहिश है, ख्वाहिश नहीं है, आपका मिजाज है, नहीं है, लेकिन आपको ज़िंदगी गुजारने के लिए कुछ ऐसा करना है जिससे आपके रोजगार का बंदोबस्त हो. वो क्या? दुनिया के झमेले हैं ना इसमें. फिक्रे दुनिया में सर खपाता हूं, मैं कहां और ये वबाल कहां. फिक्रे दुनिया के बगैर जिंदगी गुजारना मुमकिन नहीं. यू हैव टू. और वो फैज का तो मुझे भूलता नहीं कि दुनिया ने, ये दुनिया के झमेलों की तरफ बहुत वाज़ेह इशारा, और यही रोजगार के मामले. दुनिया ने तेरी याद से बेगाना कर दिया, तुझसे भी दिल फरेब हैं गम रोजगार के. तो स्टूडेंट्स, रोजगार के गम, एक ही इलाज, you should be earning money. And this is not only about the individuals. इदारे जो हैं, they also survive because of the money they earn. बिल्कुल जैसे फर्द के हिसाब से, जिसना एक फर्द पैसे कमा के ज़िंदगी अपनी बनाता है, ज़्यादा कमाता है, ज़्यादा अच्छी ज़िंदगी बनाता है, उसकी ज़िंदगी में क्वालिटेटिव एज आ जाता है. बिल्कुल इसी तरह इदारे जो हैं, उनके लिए भी नंबर वन सस्टेनेबल होने के लिए, दूसरा क्वालिटेटिव फ़र्क लाने के लिए दे नीड मनी. अब या तो उनको फंड कर दिया जाए, विच इज़ नॉट पॉसिबल ऑल द टाइम. यू कांट थिंक ऑफ द सिचुएशन वेयर यू आर गेटिंग फंड्स फ्रॉम ऑल अराउंड एंड यू आर रनिंग योर ओन बिजनेस. दिस कैन नॉट हैपन. व्हाट यू नीड इज टू मेक सम अरेंजमेंट whereby you are earning very reasonably. As the media advanced some time ago, one arrangement which came into existence by way of adjustment for all the players was advertising world. इसका वजूद तो था जब से प्रिंट मीडिया था. प्रिंट मीडिया, आप ये समझ लीजिए कि 16वीं सदी में जब प्रिंट मीडिया अपने एक ऐसी फॉर्म में आया जहाँ पर आप एक, ख़ास तौर से यूरोप में, जहाँ आप एक अखबार छाप के तो सोसाइटी में काफ़ी दूर तक अपनी बात पहुँचाने के काबिल हो गए. तो वो लोग जो मैन्युफैक्चरिंग में थे, सर्विसेज में थे, उन्होंने इसका सहारा लिया और प्रिंट मीडिया के ज़रिए महदूद जगह पे, महदूद तरीके से इसका इर्तिका जो था वो शुरू हुआ. खैर, 19वीं सदी तक आते आते जब प्रिंट मीडिया काफ़ी मेच्योर हो गया, मेच्योर इस सेंस में भी हो गया कि उसकी जो पेनिट्रेशन थी सोसाइटी में, दैट वाज क्वाइट रीजनेबल. नाउ द मीडिया हैड अ वॉइस. अब मीडिया की ये पोजीशन हो गई थी कि यू कैन नॉट ओवर रूल इट, के कोई ऐसी बात नहीं है. It would matter a lot if something would appear in the newspaper, in the states, in the governments would be taking some note of the situation. That was one reason the press laws were introduced and a system of checks and balances over media was brought into existence. Because the rulers, they could feel that now the media is assuming a shape where the states or the governments require to control it, not for their own expediency, but for the society itself. To keep media under some sort of checks was thought to be very essential, so that there shouldn't be any distortion in the society, because if one is holding an organization, a media organization, one is always in a position to influence the society the way one feels. It works both ways. We will be talking more when we'll come to the press laws and all those things. We are here to study the advertising and media. Print media के साथ साथ advertising जो थी वो चलती चलेगी, लेकिन क्योंकि print media अभी limited था, उसकी एक्सपेंशन इतनी नहीं हो सकी थी. ट्रांसपोर्ट एक्चुअली इतनी एडवांस नहीं थी कि आपने एक स्टेशन पे अखबार को प्रिंट किया. इट वुड टेक टाइम. इट मे टेक 2 days, 3 days to send a paper at a particular destination or a city, a town or the province at a distant state. It would take time, because transport was not advanced. So you see, with the advancement of all these mechanical era and the electrical era and then electronic era, all they have their own impressions on the growth of media as well. It was like directly proportional to each other. More of these advancements, you can think more of media penetration and strength of media. When radio came into its existence in the early part of the last century, what difference was felt immediately between radio and the print media was that the radio was able to take your voice at fairly a longer distance and within minutes. It was amazing. The beginning of radio was not as sparking as it appears today as we listen to the radio. The early days of radio were quite debatable. People would say what sort of sound it is. The sound quality was not that good and that high. And the people were not available as a broadcaster. But still, radio as an invention and a machine and the whole system was operational. And doesn't matter if it was working for announcements or the music, it was at its play. But it didn't take long, the advertising world, to realize, the people who were manufacturers, who were in the trade or in the services sector, it didn't take them long to understand that they can exploit this new mode of media, this electronic media. They can exploit. And what happened, very fortunately for the radio stations, that the people who approached for the publicity of their products, they got immediate benefit. Their products were popular, say overnight. This type of result was enough to make other manufacturers, the manufacturers of other products, to rush to the broadcasting houses and request them to have their time booked to run their advertisements, obviously. At a time around between 1925 and 1930 was a gray area where the radio stations would have little time because the transmission generally in most part of the world was limited. It was not round the clock. It was for 6 hours, 8 hours, or at the maximum 12 hours. Exceptionally, some radio was going beyond this time limit because the machines were like that. They would get heated up. The staff was not that much required. All those things were not that much as we see or experience today. The rush of advertisers was that the broadcasting house, which were very few and far between, they were actually booking times to run certain advertisements. As we said, the result of these campaigns, that was enormous. You see, it was the enormity of this response that the broadcasting house and the advertisers, they realized that this can take a shape of a regular piece of broadcast at the same time, earning money for the broadcasting houses. It was not earning some money. Actually, it was earning very handsomely because the result was showing. Now, you see, the broadcast had 3 types. You can categorize broadcast in this way: the local, for the local area. Your target is to broadcast something for the local interest. And then your target is to broadcast something for the scope is national level. Your range is countrywide. Okay. And then obviously regional or global. Your target is to take your voice, whatever it is, news item or talks, debates, to global level by having stations which can relay your voice to the people of the area you want to take your voice to. The same way, advertisers thought their product is meant for local consumption, or they thought it is meant for a bigger area, or if the product was having to be supplied to very many countries. There was a match, always a match available. You want a station which is heard, which is capable of transmitting in a limited range. You can hire its services. If you want a station at more distance, covering more distance, you can hire it. So it came very handy for the advertising people. The impact, the result was, as we were talking, so beneficial that it grew. The business of advertisements grew rather quickly, and very soon it assumed a shape of an industry itself. By early 30s, in most part of the world, there were advertising agencies, although not that integrated in the form of advanced industry, but they existed in the United States, and in fact the Congress was doing some legislation on the income of advertising agencies and the taxes and all those things. Then it was perhaps the same for the advertising agencies all over the world. When the advertising agencies came into being, they facilitated both the people who want to advertise and the broadcasting houses. You see, at a radio station, it was so difficult for the persons booking ads that the person is telling everybody how the ads run on a broadcasting house, what are our limitations and what you can do and what would be the finances and what would be the budgeting, the slots, all those things. It was very difficult because most people would not understand the mechanics of broadcasting. So in between, when the advertising agencies came, it made things very convenient for almost all the stakeholders. For the manufacturers, it was a single man contract, go to the advertising agency. And the agency people would be then telling everything, all the details about running a radio campaign, publicity campaign for a product. And then the advertising people are going to the broadcasting house that this much is the budget, this is the size of the ad in terms of time, and this is the quality of the advertisements we have made. The broadcasting house would check everything and would say, if it says okay, it would be broadcast. Since it continued happening for some time, it became a regular advertising industry almost all over the world. Now, some of the advertising agencies are so rich, if they wish, they can launch their own radio station. They can have their own TV channel. They are so rich, the advertising business. You see, when the advertising on radio in particular, after the print media, when on radio it came to age, it was entirely a different scheme. The money, the entertainment, I would say the revolution. With advertising making an impact on radio, specialization also came to advertising agencies in so many senses. The visualizer. Now you see, it was not possible just to write down few lines on a piece of paper and say, well, this is a product, you can buy it and you benefit. No, nothing at all. That would be rejected, or it would be not listened to. First, they required visualizer. Now I'm telling you the type of jobs this advertising agency created. In fact, it is for the broadcasting students, the students of mass communication. It is perhaps one of the basic subjects to find how this advertising industry, because it is hand in glove with the promotion of media. So we need to understand how these advertising agencies or advertising business goes. The jobs they create. Sometimes they are overlapping jobs. You can work in the same capacity at a radio station. You can also work for an advertising agency with a little bit of trimming. Now, you needed a person who would first think of a different idea. We will be talking more about the types of advertisements in the next talk. What type of ad it would be. Then the person would be suggesting who may appear with the voice if it is for radio, whose voice suits this type of lines or this type of whatever has been visualized. Then the all issue will go to the scriptwriter, specialized scriptwriter, who specialize in writing brief, crisp, to the point, and hitting the target people straight away. Very specialized job. Writing script for ads. And a lot of money, I tell you. If you have written 1 or 2 or 3 good scripts for advertisements or the broadcast for a multinational, I tell you, you are a rich man. So much is paid to the people who write scripts for the ads. Independent job. Then it will go to the director. Now you need a different type of directors. Their directors are little different from the ones you have at the radio stations for directing drama, talk shows, interviews, documentaries. For ad, as we have talked, advertisement for broadcasting came as a different, altogether a different product for broadcasting. You require different type of specialized people. One is director. Now the director knows that he or she is making a program, a broadcast product, but in the sense of publicity, it would have all different characteristics, but its mechanics are like making a radio program. The voice, the mic, the studio, recording, and what we were talking earlier in this lecture, post-production, to give it a desired color of impact. And after the director came the performance. Now you need the different people. And students, interestingly, there have been people who started their career, many celebrities, many film stars, big name on TV screen. They began their career as a performer in an ad for radio or television before they are known to the masses and before they are taken up for the bigger screen. One such example I may be quoting here is a heroine, a film heroine in Pakistan of a little past, Babra Sharif. She first appeared in an advertisement. The advertisement, in fact, as it happens with some advertisements, it got so much popular. The advertisement itself got popular. The product must be, but the advertisement itself, people would wait the ad in which Babra Sharif has appeared. So from those little ads, one day, people found her on the silver screen, and then she ruled over the industry for a decade. She is not an exception. There are many who started their career from a very small advertisement on radio or television. I mean, from the world of broadcasting. Such a strong, the impact of broadcasting has been all through that it has produced some stars. But we are more concerned about different areas, different jobs which the advertisement agencies has created. They are all, in one way or the other, have an appeal for the masses, and that is why this subject is studied in mass communication. And that is why we as a student, we are students of broadcasting. We are talking about the advertisements as an independent product for broadcasting. Now, you see, the early boom of advertisements brought so much jobs, entertainment. You see, entertainment. Some of the advertisements you would hear on the radio, and you may be humming in the bathroom. All right? You are going to the office and you are sitting in a car, and you may be recalling and you may be humming again. And in the office, you are sitting at a table and you are playing the same tone. The impact had been very strong. In 40s, 50s and 60s, which in most part of the world was not the age of television, it was the age of radio. People would listen to these advertisements, particularly they were very entertaining for the children, because the jingles, we will be talking more about what jingle is, and the little songs, they were composed in such a manner that you would enjoy listening. And one after the other, they would, since advertisements are, repeated after some time, some advertisers have campaigned for 3 months or 6 months campaign. So they keep repeating their ads many times a day, in a week or months. So you see, when you are listening again and again and again, the tunes, all the rhyme and the rhythm of all those ads, they get settled somewhere in your mind, and that is perhaps that's what is required by the advertiser, that it should stick in the mind of people, so that people recall sometime what product it talks about. And that is the crux of publicity. If you are able to make people remember all the time, it goes in their RAM, that is random access memory. If that goes into that area, the purpose is served. Purpose is served very well. Well, you see, as the advancement was made in the area of broadcasting and advertising, as you were talking, they were hand in gloves. The study moved a little further. The time came for audience analysis. And you see, both the broadcasting houses and the advertising agencies, both were concerned, and both were very much interested to make audience analysis. You see, one basic thing a student of mass communication can never overlook, that a piece of communication is not meant, one piece of communication is not meant for all the audience. This is something very basic. One news item does not meant the same for every viewer or listener, or reader for that matter. We all understand this very well, the students of communication. Exactly. This happened with the radio and the advertising people somewhere in the 50s, when both of them showed interest in making audience analysis. What type of audience is listening more to what type of program? Not much. You see, the audience analysis cells were created. We also have in Pakistan, in subcontinent, in all those countries, all the radio stations of some name and fame, they have this audience analysis cells set up in their broadcasting houses. What they do, the people employed in those cells, they keep on watching what program is heard by what type of people. The youngsters, you see, there are different categories of audience. Generally, they make categories like this: men as radio listeners, women radio listeners, children up to the age of 13, 14. Very distinct three categories. Youth between 15 to 30, 31, 32. Middle age from this age to 50, 55. Then there is another way of doing it. The rural people, the urban people. These are the settled segments. Settled means they agreed. All the broadcasting house, they agreed that this is the broad spectrum, broad segment of the people who listen to radio programs. Now, when you are making a radio program, you always find out what category or categories this program is going to influence. Exactly the same pattern. The advertising people, they started working. The idea of in fact, the wish of the advertising people is always that they be hitting more segments if they are successful. So, the advertising people worked on the same pattern. For instance, if it is an ad for a bank, first of all, the first thing which would be done in an advertising agency between a the advertiser and the advertising agency people, they would be settling what type of people. We have just talked about all those segments. You want to take your message of publicity and for instance, they would be settling that it is more of youth, men, and if there is some other segment. Now, they will be making an advertisement which will be addressing more to these categories. Now, if it influences or if it interests the other segments, it will be taken as a bonus. For instance, if it influences a rural population at the same time, it is a bonus. But it must influence the target people. This is the primary requisite for an advertisement. And you might have noticed that there are so many ads which are run at radio stations in the world of broadcasting. You can easily recognize, as a student of mass comm, you would be doing it rather better than the others, that this advertisement is meant for this type of people. For instance, if there is a soap, bath soap of expensive, you would easily find that the person who is performing, who is saying lines, and lines itself are targeting people who have this purchasing power to buy this washing soap. And again, if there is a bath soap which is very cheap and an ordinary person can afford it, you would find that the person employed for this purpose and the lines which have been chosen to address the people, obviously for publicity purposes, those lines are different. And in fact, the character which has been employed is also the one who can buy this bath soap easily. So you see, there is always a mechanism which goes in finding the desired audience. If you are making advertisements for fertilizers or tractors or insecticides, as there are many products concerning these things these days on radio and on television, radio in particular, as we are talking about more on radio, you might have noticed the character is some Chaudhary Sahab, and he is saying कि जी मैंने ट्रैक्टर लेना है आजकल, मुझे ट्रैक्टर की बड़ी शदीद ज़रूरत है, अगर आजकल मैंने ले लिया तो बड़ा अच्छा है, और आजकल तो बैंक से कर्जा भी मिल रहा है और वो सस्ता भी है. वो उसी तरह के एक करैक्टर में, आवाज़ में, उसी तरह की लाइंस में लिखे हुए उसी तरीके से उसको बनाया जाएगा. देन इट विल बी बेयरिंग सम इफेक्ट. इनफैक्ट broadcasting houses also prefer that all things should be made according to their qualitative analysis and according to their audience analysis. They also lend this help to the people who are there in the advertising area. And all this actually goes, since all it goes to the mutual benefit of the advertisers and the broadcasting houses. So they in fact keep on helping each other. But the advertising agencies or the advertisers, they are more keen in having their own analysis. For instance, they need to have first-hand analysis that certain programs of sports or music, they are heard more, or a certain anchor person, when that anchor person is there in a program, it is listened to more, and people interact more with this program, and people in fact react more to this program. So they would always wish that their product be publicized either around that program, or sometime they would be hiring the person. They would be buying the person's voice, his or her. On radio, some voices are very popular. You just listen to them and you conclude that you have got who the person is because they are so popular. They are so sweet. The advertising people are always after such voices. They would pay more. You see, again, it creates a sort of a job for a person who has some control over the speech or who has tuned itself, its voice, as a voice of a broadcaster. Alone this area gave you a career. And the advertising agencies, you might have noticed some of the voices, or you may notice it right now. Some of the voices are heard more in the advertisements as compared to others because they are very popular voices, and advertising agency people and the advertisers, they all wish they spare some time to get their advertisements recorded in these voice or voiceover or in whatever the form. The voice is what money is paid. You see, the advertising agency in the electronic media, it has created so many jobs from so many angles. And all this has gone in the mutual benefit. और इसके अलावा जो मैथ्स कॉम के स्टूडेंट हैं, they also discover when they join the profession, there are certain other areas which also affect the relationship between the media and the advertisers. For instance, popularity of a radio station. It also features very prominently in getting business. If you are a proper broadcasting house and at the same time very popular broadcasting house, it would matter a lot. For instance, just on the same pattern, अगर आपका अखबार है, 4 अखबार हैं, एक अखबार जो है वो बहुत पॉपुलर भी है, खबरें सारों में एक जैसी हैं जैसे भी है, लेकिन एक अखबार जो है वो पॉपुलर भी ज़्यादा है. So it would also attract more business. So if broadcasting house is popular, now a broadcasting house is popular because of its popular programs. It's very high quality programs. So it would also fetch you a business. It doesn't mean that all the business is divided equally on all the broadcasting houses. This does not happen. This mathematics doesn't work in the practical life. A better broadcasting house will have more business, and all the advertising agencies and all the advertisers would prefer, they will be running after rather to secure some time on popular channels. Number one. Secondly, even at a popular channel, more attraction is created by the programs, the nature of programs. For instance, if drama is popular in some part of the radio broadcasting life, the people would be asking more to have their advertisements run on the radio station when the drama time is on or the drama time is there. Similarly, if it is a product meant for children, and if you have a very interesting children program at your radio station, the manufacturer of those products like chewing gums, like sweets, like toffees, like all those things, or toys, they would be more interested in securing a spot to run their advertisements at that time. So, and then there are more areas. There are more areas, students, which you would be learning more when you will be joining actually a broadcasting house. Or sometimes you are given advertisements for different reasons, and sometimes there are people who want to oblige you. Well, I want to keep this area oblique. You would be discovering it yourself when you would be joining the field. We will be talking more about advertisements, its nature, how they are made, Well, that is a very interesting part. How the advertisements are made and what different things play their role in making an advertisement, and how more in the advertising business. We'll be talking in the next talk. But do remember that broadcasting and advertisement is very essential for each other, because it is the advertising area which brings you the money. And the money you need so essentially to run your broadcasting house, to earn money, to keep such a huge staff and the latest equipment. All this is a money matter. As we stated in the beginning, you have to. और जो हमने आपको अशार सुनाए थे वो भी इसी तरफ थे कि ये इसके बगैर आपका गुजारा नहीं. We will be talking about some terminologies here. What last we were talking about? That was, oh yes, kill the mic. That means switch off, disconnect the mic. The term at the set would be said, kill that mic, kill mic number 3. That means switch off that microphone, which is labeled as number 3. And live. You must have heard this term so many times. Live coverage, live program. What is live? Well, a piece of broadcast which is not recorded. And you are in fact having this piece of broadcast in real time. For instance, I am talking here, and right now I listen something on the radio or I watch it on television. It will be watching a live telecast or a live broadcast in the real time, not recorded. And next term is, in the last term for the day, live announcements. Now you see, there are some announcements which are recorded along with the recorded program. But sometimes you have live announcements. For instance, before a newsreel, and before if you are going to have a live coverage of some like cricket match or a hockey match, you have to make a live announcement, an announcement which is attached or which precedes a live program. This is called live announcement. Talking more on terminologies one by one, and I think by this time we have quite a sizable number of terminologies, and you must be keeping it up, because it may be asked in the mid-term or the final term, because it is ultimately it is a terminology which, if you remember in a proper order, that helps you communicate or your knowledge in a very effective manner. Talking more on advertisement in the talking more on these terminologies in the coming talks, and till then, Khuda Hafiz. Assalamu alaikum, students. How are you? Great, wonderful. What it was last time, we were talking about advertising and broadcasting. Advertisements meant for broadcasting. A new word, a new approach, very quickly done, as with the introduction of radio stations. It didn't take long for the manufacturers of goods and provider of services, traders, the business world. Business world is always very keen to promote its own cause. You all understand this. It didn't take them long to understand that this electronic media is actually meant for them. The electronic media may be thinking otherwise, but the advertising people thought, ज़बरदस्त, यही तो चाहिए था, कुछ ऐसा जो उनकी बात को समुंदर पार ले जाए और उनकी चीजें बिकें धड़ाधड़ और make lot of money. But for the broadcasters, the performers, the producers, the directors, it also opened gates. Jobs, money earning. And when we ended last, students, we were talking about the area where the specialization has come, both for the broadcasting houses and the advertisers. When it came to age, somewhere in 50s and 60s, a lot of analysis were made for the audience. The type of audience were defined as rural audience, urban audience, middle income audience, rich people. Are you a rich person? No. Middle class? Well, it's okay. Middle class people, they say,